Ham Nation is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether they're working in the office or remote. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 485, December 23rd, 2020. It's the best of 2020. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Heil, and we're here with the best of the shows for 2020 on Ham Nation. We had so many, it's absolutely impossible to pick out a perfect show or the best of. They were all really good. But for me personally, it just has to be W4KKP. He was 109 years old, the oldest living ham. And I was so blessed to be able to spend some time with him a few years back, telling us his terrible days to me, but very, very serious days that he spent on Iwo Jima and saving this country. So I want you to really pay attention, unless our hearts all go out to Cliff. He died just a few weeks prior to his 110th birthday. So let's take a look at W4KKP, the oldest active ham radio operator. This is an interview with Cliff K. Hart, W4KKP. Cliff is the oldest living amateur radio operator, and he relates the story of his appointment to install the communication system on Iwo Jima. This is a fascinating story.
Marines were just, I'd call it murder. As they came up over the beach, Japanese had all underground caves. They'd open up the door and just all... Oh. They killed the Marines by thousands. Oh. That was the worst thing. I better not talk about that.
But they saved you, because you were in your Quonset hut, building radios, still building radios.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you were the guy that was able to let the world know it's over. We won. Raise the flag, right?
Yep, and when the B-29s famous... The reason for Iwo Jima was the B-29s were flying all the way from Guam and Saipan to Tokyo. A round trip was nearly 3,000 miles. And it was tough on our equipment and our men. Mm-hmm. So when I landed, it's a funny thing. I went to the military office and said I want to join the military. And I was 31 years old then. Mm-hmm. And the captain came out, he looked at all my information and experience. He said, I can make you a major right now. And I said, hold on, Major, I'm sort of promised to the Signal Corps Electronics Training Group. Mm-hmm. I figured that I had a baby and a wife, and that was pretty good. I figured I wouldn't go overseas. I'd be training people and so on. But they crossed me up. I went to Harvard for 4 months, studied radio engineering. And the thing is, I knew most of it, but I still gained some valuable information from the course. I figured my life was a time of learning, and any chance I got, I wanted to learn something more. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I spent the 4 months there, and then I got orders to go to MIT and study radar.
My goodness.
That was very, very secretive. I couldn't even tell my wife what I was doing. So I spent, let's see, about 2 months there, and got a nice certificate from them and one from Harvard. I went down to Robbins Field in Georgia and did some radar work for them. And then all of a sudden, a sergeant came running out. I was going home on leave. And I had my wife and baby all packed up in my car. Wife lived in East Orange, so I was going to drive her home. But a sergeant came out of the signal office and said, "Hold on, I was a lieutenant. That's the best I could get with this training course I was in, which is okay by me." Anyway, he says, "We just heard from Washington. You're going to the West Coast." I didn't go home on leave. I made arrangements, got my wife, baby home. She had a mother and 4 sisters living in East Orange, and I knew she would be all right. So I went west and got up. I knew I was going overseas then. The military base where I was right on the coast. And there was a big, long Quonset hut where I was going to live. Our ship was in dry dock. So I went in there, and lo and behold, there were doctors, dentists, colonels, lieutenant colonels, all casuals waiting to go overseas. So we became great friends. And anyway, we decided we didn't have enough money. We sent it home. I'm making this too long, maybe, and I'll shorten it up. So we got a job as longshoremen. We had to join the union, and it was legal for military people to get a civilian job if they're waiting for a ship on dry dock or on leave. So finally, our ship arrived out of dry dock, and we set sail. It was secretive. We didn't know where we were going, but as soon as we got on the ship, we knew we were going west. No question about it. Well, I looked up one day and I saw a big mass of land, and after studying the thing, I said, "Oh, that's Diamond Head, and that's Hawaii. So we're going to Hawaii," and we did. I reported in the signal office, and they said, "Take 2 weeks off, get to know the island of Oahu around here, and enjoy yourself. And in 2 weeks, we'll be in touch with you." I enjoyed that. Hawaii was sort of a dirty, Honolulu was a dirty city. There was only one hotel, and that was a Rotel Hawaiian, the very fine hotel. And that was reserved for submarine crews when they came in. Anyway, after the 2 weeks were up, I got a call, went to the office. There was a general and some other officers there. The general sat me down, and he said, "Lieutenant, I know why you got into the Army, and I don't want to change that unless you are willing. But he says, I have some important work that I know you can do." He'd made a study of me, evidently. "And if you're willing, I'd like to have you do this work for me." So I said, "General, if you got a job for me, I'm for it. I didn't join the military to sit on my rear end. I need to be active, and if you have a job for me, I'm very willing to do it." So he sent me out to the radio station. And I spent about 3 or 4 months there, got to know everybody, all the equipment. And the general called me in again. He says, "We've been worried about having our radio station above ground, considering Pearl Harbor, and we don't know if the might come in again. So we dug a big tunnel in this mountain here, and I want you to go out there and install all of our transmitters in that tunnel. So I did that. I ran the cables from the power station and hooked all of them up, got them all tuned up, and got that job done. General called me in again. He showed me a map on the wall. He said, "Do you know what that is?" I said, "No, I don't, General. It looks like an island." He said, "It is. That's Iwo Jima." He says, "We're going to take this island from the Japanese because 3,000 miles round trip for our B-29s from Maui and Taiwan. It's hurting our men and our equipment. So we need to take this island, which is 700 miles south of Tokyo." And he says, "I want you to build the radio station out there." He says, I know what your experience is. I made a study of you, and long before you came here, I knew what your experience was in radio. And that's why you came out here to Hawaii. And he says, "I want you to build this radio station."
Wonderful.
And when the B-29s arrive on Iwo Jima, this will be our main radio contact with the Pentagon and San Francisco and also China. So I said, "Good, General, I'm for it." He says, "You've been out in the radio station, you know the men out there, pick your own crew. You can have 12 men altogether, plus yourself. And you can pick the men you want to take and get all the equipment ready, all the wire and cable and transmitters and everything you need, and get ready to take off." So I did that. And again, we got on a ship and we were going west.
Oh, what a great story.
Our ship was a very nice ship built by Norwegians, very new ship. And it was an army ship. This Iwo Jima was an army operation because of the V-29s and so on. So we got out there and arrived just off the shore from Iwo Jima at night. And dust was all over the place, machine guns going off, flamethrowers blasting, and everything else that you can imagine. So I asked the captain, "Captain, are we going in tomorrow morning?" He said, "Yes, you are." It so happens that most of my men were awfully seasick all the way out. And I used to visit them on the deck, and they looked green in color. They were really... But they came to in a hurry. And morning came, I was the first one down the rope ladder and got on the landing craft. And that was a little tough because the ship was going this way and the landing craft. I waited until they were level and I hopped down. I made out, I stumbled around a little bit. And the men came down next and they stumbled around pretty good, but I grabbed them and kept them from falling in the water. You had to keep in mind we had a big pack on our back and a rifle on our shoulder. And this landing craft was loaded not only with my crew, but a bunch of Marine soldiers were on there. So we got on and we circled around for about an hour. I never got more tired in my life. Finally, we landed right down at the base of Mount Suribachi. And that was a volcano. And it had sort of a mountain there, several hundred feet high anyway. So I had the men dig foxholes and found what looked like the safest place right under the volcanic mountain. And we dug our foxholes. Well, about 3 in the morning, I heard a patter of feet, and then a rifle went off. I jumped up out of my foxhole, and here my top sergeant had just shouted, and he had a hand grenade in his pocket and one in his hand. I thought that was very unusual. We were told never to walk around at night. You'll get shot by your own people. But I think the reason he was looking for water, I'm sure, because being in the caves, there's no source of fresh water on that island. We had stills. We distilled the salt water, and we had pretty good water there. So anyway, I found out where the radio station was meant to be. On the map, it says theater. Theater. I guess the Japanese had a theater where the Seabees had built my very nice Quonset hut for my transmitters and so on. So I went to work, and I had the men first pick up all the ham grenades they could carry and all the trip flares they could carry. So they went down to the munitions depot and got that stuff, and we distributed trip flares all around our place. So if any came in there, they would have quite a surprise. And I put the men on guard at night, and they shot at a few, but they didn't come into our territory.
Since March, our world has been hammered with a COVID virus pandemic. And it's solid facts. We need medical facts. And thanks to our medical doctors that are also active ham radio operators, here are those facts to keep us distanced from the COVID-19 gremlins. We hope everybody has a safe end of the year and a great beginning of the year 2021. First of all, let's talk to Dr. Scott. Dr. Scott, right, you were on a couple of weeks ago, and you're K0MD, and where are you located?
Good evening, Bob. I live in Rochester, Minnesota, and I work at the Mayo Clinic.
Oh, boy. I bet you have stories for us, and we want to get to those. But I also have Dr. Harry. Dr. Harry is an old rock and roll buddy of mine, but we don't want to talk about that tonight. We're here for serious stuff, and we want to hear your take. Harry, you're in Chicago area?
Chicago, right now, Batavia, about 50 miles out of Chicago. Still involved with Fermi National Accelerator Lab for Medicine, but originally Chicago at Rush and Cook County Hospital.
All right. Well, we want to hear what you guys know about what's going on. We hear a lot of stuff on the news, but I think you two guys can really nail some things down. So take the podium and the microphone, Scott, and let's hear what's really going on and what we need to be doing.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks again for the invitation to come on Ham Nation, one of the most widely watched shows, not just among ham radio, but on social media. I came on the program a couple of weeks ago to talk about a study that the Food and Drug Administration and the U.S. government had asked the Mayo Clinic to lead on, called the U.S. Convalescent Plasma Study. 2 weeks ago, we were just starting, so to speak. We were trying to find more recovered patients from COVID to donate plasma. And thanks to the publicity from Ham Nation, as well as all of the other media requests and the promotions that have gone on. I'm really delighted to announce tonight that we have enrolled 7,176 patients, and of those 7,176, 3,811 have received transfusion. You can see that we have a lot of hospitals and sites. Those numbers will be updated tomorrow again when we have our leadership call, but we're absolutely delighted at the fact that we can give almost 500 units of convalescent plasma a day through what we call a bioethical framework study that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration organized, and Mayo Clinic is leading with hospitals in every state and in several U.S. territories. So we're really happy this is moving forward. There are no approved medications yet for COVID. Some are promising, but convalescent plasma is one of the oldest treatments, and we hope that it's successful in helping patients recover more quickly and perhaps not needing to go into the intensive care unit or needing to be put on a ventilator. I want to thank everyone who's donated. I know you had Andy Anderson on Ham Nation maybe last week, and he talked about donating, and I want to thank him and all of the hams and their families and friends who have recovered from COVID and donated. And I would just want to ask again tonight that if you have had COVID and you recovered, you're out 14 to 21 days and without symptoms, please consider donating. A unit of your blood can be made into 2 units of plasma that can be given to individuals all across the United States to help them. And the lives you impact may well be those of your own family or your friends or certainly neighbors. We're still deep into the COVID situation. It's still a crisis. I feel like progress is being made. And I think that, we are optimistic that we can get through this, and especially with the help of those who donate plasma.
The situation is, and I want to make it very clear that anyone that has gone through this horrible time and has had the disease, and they are now, I guess you can call it cured. You're looking for those people because they can help you. What's the reasoning? Is there something very special about their plasma, Scott?
There is. Thanks again for asking about that. Anytime you've had an infectious illness, your body mounts an immune response to kill off the invading organisms. And in the case of COVID, it's a virus similar to the common cold, except it's a lot more virulent and a lot more lethal. And for several months after you've recovered, you have antibodies or proteins in your blood that sit inside the plasma of the blood and provide you immunity against reinfection. Most people have it. Probably 95 to 98% have a plasma immunity. We're able to take the blood, spin off the plasma, and take the antibodies which provide immunity, and to give it to someone else to basically help their immune system fight COVID more effectively. If you can imagine, it's like a fire, and if you can douse some water on it, you can get it under control. So maybe you can get it cordoned off or completely put out. And that's how the antibodies kind of work. They boost your own immune system's ability to finish off and kill off the COVID and help you recover. And I do appreciate you raising this point because this is a very dangerous and deadly disease. For the last few weeks, more people have been dying every day of COVID than of cancer or heart disease alone. I think those numbers are going to start to fall soon, but it's still an enormous number of people. And even last weekend's New York Times had a sobering story about the graves in New York City that they're burying the unclaimed and unrecovered bodies in. And this is just a very sad time in American history, but we are resilient as a people and as a nation, and we will get through this. And we're learning a lot in the medical community about how to prevent it, how to quarantine it, how to stop it. And I think when we face it again in the future, we'll be much better prepared to manage it and to get it over with and get it out much quicker.
Well, we're looking forward to a day when you can come on, and we want you to be on as much as you would like to, because you always have good information. But I'm looking for that golden day when you will come on and say, we kind of have it under control, because right now I don't think they have it totally under control. And but the thing is, you're getting there, and you're getting there with the help of people that, if they've had the disease, you need them. So let's do it one more time. Tell them where they need to go, who they need to call if they've had it and they're cured. What do they need to do? Who do they need to call, Scott?
We want you to donate blood through your local blood bank. Could be the American Red Cross for most cities in this country. It could be Vitalant in the western part of the U.S., One Blood in South Florida for sure, America's Blood Companies, and many blood banks, blood centers exist in the New York metropolitan area. The New York Blood Bank is very large. In Minnesota, at Mayo Clinic, as well as in the Twin Cities, we have blood banks. You can find information about where to donate at www.uscovidplasma.org, the website that you've been seeing below me, my picture on the show tonight. And there are links that will help get you there. And we will, you can find a place and you can call them, make an appointment, and come in. So if you're free of COVID symptoms for several weeks, and it's been probably 21 days since you've had the disease, and you're free of symptoms, you're feeling better, you can call and make an appointment and be screened, and they'll screen you again. And if you're disease-free, at that time, they will check your blood. If you live in Florida, this is a special case. If you live in Florida, my understanding is that the entire state is now doing antibody testing on all donated blood products. So it's even simpler in Florida. Just donate blood, and the blood that has positive antibodies for COVID will be spun off and given to this project, and the rest of it will go for the usual blood banks. There's no cost for doing this. There's no charge to the patients for getting the COVID plasma. And Bob, if I could take just a moment and give a special shout out to New Hampshire. We had a situation last week where 2 patients were critically ill, both on ventilators in the Southern New Hampshire Medical Center. And through the families of those patients and through efforts of our own, we were able to get in touch with the Attorney General and Governor of New Hampshire. The governor issued an executive order staying one of the state laws which prevented patients who were on ventilators and others from being able to sign research forms. So their families were able to enroll them, and we've heard that one of those for sure was able to come off the ventilator. Don't know if it was related to the plasma. We hope so. But what's more important is they got well, and the family was very happy. And so I want to have a special thank you tonight to Governor Sununu and his Attorney General. I forget his name, but those of you in New Hampshire will know who I'm speaking about, for the work they did and for all the doctors and nurses at the Southern Regional Medical Center in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Man, that's always good. Always good stuff. Well, let's listen to see what Harry has for us tonight. Harry, you want to give us a little take on what's going on in Northern Illinois?
Not a problem. One, I want to commend what Mayo's doing. I mean, that business of looking at antigen antibodies is and collecting the plasma from patients that have recovered. Maybe I hate to use this cliche because it's starting to sound like one, a game changer, but it offers a lot to be said. Illinois has had, particularly the Cook County area, which is where metropolitan Chicago is, an enormous number of first responders, police officers, inordinate statistical number of people becoming infected. It almost follows what we saw back in the late 70s when we saw HIV as an epidemic in the United States originally. And we're seeing some of that, although it's a completely different type of virus. But it is causing a lot of havoc. Rush is one of the few hospitals in the United States that was built where there is one entire floor set up for warfare, chemical warfare, and biological agents. So there's a lot of teams working in that. But we have seen a lot of people having runs. If Scott, if I could call you Scott, said, there's a hope with the Z-Pack, as we've heard, or say something like Cipro, we'd see a run on that. So there's a lot of misapprehension with some of the patients that we see that are doing ridiculous things. Case in point, I've seen a patient that injected Lysol. Not a good thing, not the way to go to take care of this virus. From the HIV land, though, not as opposed, but as another avenue that we're looking at attacking the virus, is working tightly with some of the firms like Abbott, Gilead, and so on antiretroviral therapy, which it kind of gets a little bit deep to go into it. But if we've looked at a cohort of patients, a lot of them that did not, let's say, were on good management of HIV, and they're not showing the same size with the COVID-19 the same way that we would expect. So that tells us that the odds of using an antiretroviral medication, just think of it as another type of pill to attack the virus, may offer some other help. So a lot of these, the one thing I think both Scott would say and I would say is we're not being impeded, as in a lot of cases. We took an oath that says do no harm. So that's the first thing we want to really do no harm to a patient. But on the other side of the coin, if we do have someone that's in desperate need, and there is this last-ditch effort, if we want to call it that, then we want to start looking at these other avenues. And they're going to probably show us promise going down the future. It's a matter of just finding the right combination, the right time. And, we used to say, it's 6615 is one of the buzzwords with HIV. It was volume, quantity, and time. What's unique, you could have volume, I'll do this very quickly, volume, quantity, and time of the HIV virus in a cubic centimeter, if you said. And if that patient's under good control and management, the odds of you contracting that if you were exposed, rendering aid to someone like that, is very remote. But take, say, a pinhead, and let's put hepatitis C under to give you an idea. You are almost pretty much guaranteed you may have hep C after getting stuck with that pinhead. So all of these things together make it complicated, but also we have avenues we could go down, much as like Mayo Clinic's doing it. Everybody's looking at different avenues. The worst thing we have is, Tony would say, Dr. Fauci, is we don't have what we call R0N. And we didn't have that from the beginning. And once it got out into the public or community mainstream, the mathematics became very, very difficult to process. So I won't talk too much. I have a tendency of, going on. So I'll slow down there. But go ahead.
It's all just great information, and that's why we have you here. Now, Amanda has been collecting questions for you gentlemen. So, Amanda, it's all yours. What do you have for us?
Well, I actually have some great, fantastic questions. Dr. Harry, my first one is actually for you. Because your expertise is in other autoimmune diseases and such, are you extremely worried that funding is going to be taken away from some of those other diseases and everything is going to go towards COVID now, and we're going to lose hope on some of our other?
Good question. An excellent question. No. I don't have the crystal ball, of course, and I'm not the man that writes off, the paperwork on that. But as opposed to seeing in past years a decline in NIH, CDC funding, the NIAH, and so on, and I don't know how Scott feels about it, but there were limits, put in a lot of fundamental research. But since we've seen spin-offs, much of what we're doing that's very, very fast in the drug cycle for vaccine design, drug design, has come from HIV and a lot of our cancer therapeutics. The HIV population early on, before we even knew it, we called it HIV, let's say. We ended up having to fast track, or the term is black box term. So it was off-label use of certain medications, which helps. So to answer your question, no, I don't think we're going to see that. I think we may see an enhanced and more emphasis and maybe more residents wanting to study infectious disease, which might be nicer fellows. So I think it's going to increase in a broader spectrum overall.
Ham for the holidays. ICOM's newest handheld amateur radio is the ID52A. Larger radio, larger color display, and louder audio. This VHF-UHF digital transceiver is much more than a replacement for the ID51A. The color display is 2.3 inches for exceptional viewability, and the audio is 80% louder. This multifunction dual-band D-Star transceiver supports DR mode for easy access to local repeaters based on internal GPS information, as well as terminal and access point modes. The ID52A also has Bluetooth for audio and data control. The IC705 is the perfect sidekick for hams who like to enjoy what both the great indoors and outdoors have to offer. It's the perfect QRP companion, base station features and functionalities at the tips of your fingers in a portable package covering HF, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in just over 2 pounds with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall, 5 watts with the BP272, 10 watts with 13.8 volt DC external, single sideband, CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions. Visit ICOMAmerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios. You can also enter ICOM's weekly drawing for ICOM swag prizes like t-shirts and hats. And don't forget to check out the details on ICOM's monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. Go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation for official rules and to check out all of ICOM's previous drawing winners. Sign up and good luck. Hi everyone, this is George, W5JDX with HamNation and AmateurLogic.tv. You know, 2020 has been a really interesting year all over, and it's been interesting here at HamNation as well. This year, we got you started with Arduinos with an introduction on what they are, what you would need to follow along, and basically how to program them from the beginning. And we also did a couple of interesting projects. There are 2 main options to program an Arduino, and there are third-party options as well. We're going to use one provided by Arduino themselves. You'll see an Arduino web editor. That is one way to do it, and you don't have to install the editor on your computer if you do it this way. I've actually have not used it. Your code is stored in the cloud when you do that. I like to keep everything on my own hard drive, so I'm going to download the Arduino Ide. Now it's available for Mac OS X, 32 or 64-bit Linux, and the ARM versions of Linux as well. I've loaded the Arduino editor here. I look under Tools. I select the board I'm going to use, the Arduino Uno. Also, we need to set the COM port, and if we look there, we see that COM3 is where the Arduino Uno is installed. Now looking up here in the source code, first there is a function here called Setup. This setup section will run every time the Arduino is booted up. You'll put code here that might be used for initialization or declare some variables and a number of different things. The next section of the program is the loop section. All Arduino programs, or we call them sketches, are going to have at least a setup and a loop section. Looking at the loop here, it also says void. That means it returns nothing. And there are no parameters passed to or from it. Open and close braces. And in between there, we put source code. The loop section on the program continues to run over and over as long as the Arduino is on. It'll start at the top of that code and work its way down to the bottom. Then it'll jump right back up to loop again and continue just running in a circle until you turn the Arduino off. So now let's look at what might be considered the hello world of Arduino. There are some examples that come with the Arduino. We'll just go right into them. Right here under Basics, there's Blink. This first section here with the / followed by a star. If you follow that on down, you see there's a star and another /. Everything in between those two markers there is considered a comment. None of that is required when the program is running. We can just delete that, but generally you'd leave it there so it would be a clue when you come back and look at this code later. If we look under setup, we see there's only one line here. It's got a comment that says initialize digital pin LED built in as an output. And we've got a pin mode statement, and then in parentheses are the parameters that we're setting pin mode to. The first is LED built in, which is a construct that tells the program we're going to toggle a particular pin, and we're going to set pin mode to be output. There's a built-in LED on the Arduino board. That's what LED built-in symbolizes. We look down here under the loop function. The first line is digital write. The parameters are LED built-in and high. So that means digital write to the built-in LED, we're setting it high. Then we're going to delay, and our parameter we're passing here is 1000, which is 1000 milliseconds, or we're going to wait for 1 second. Then we do another digital write to the same pin, and we set it low. And then we delay for another second. Once all that code is executed, it starts right back up here at the top at the first line of loop and just continues over and over. So what we're doing is we're turning the LED on and off every second. There's the built-in LED, and we see it's flashing on and off every 1 second. Today, we loaded a simple example program and ran it. And at the end of that series, we stepped it up just a little bit with a really high-speed Morse code keyboard. We've set words per minute to 10. Let's try my call sign. Very well. Let's try another one here. Let's see how fast this thing can go. Let's say words per minute 100. Okay, it took the command. There was my call sign at 100 words per minute. Can you be sure of that? Well, I think so. I did check it with Ham Radio Deluxe's DM780 program doing the CW decoder, and it decoded it at 100 words per minute. For Smoke and Solder, we're going to do a little Tales from the Transmitter site. This is, well, it's not a horror tale yet. It will be. Sooner or later, it's just a matter of time. So far, it's still working, but, well, let me show you what I'm talking about here. You know, my FM transmitters, all of them use this same tube here. This is an iMac 4CX15000A. I've got the pin sitting on top there, so you can kind of get an idea of the scale of it. This particular one is a rebuild. They cut the bottom stem off of that tube, they pull the elements out, replace them, and then put it back together. And you can get those for about half the price of a new tube, which is, in the $4,000 range for a new one. I normally use rebuilds, although I'm not getting as good a life out of them as I used to. All the contacts are done down there on the bottom, on that stem of the tube, on those rings you can see around it. The very top, that's part of the plate or the anode there, all of that assembly with the heatsink is all part of the plate of that tube. And that little knob on the top is where you connect the plate voltage. But back down to the other rings on that insulator, there you can see it setting into the socket. Now you notice that black on the socket there, that's not a burn or anything like that. That's okay. These are silver plated, and silver kind of tarnishes black like that. But the black is still conductive. So you don't have to clean it off if you don't want to, and most folks don't. And all those little fingers in there, or teeth, whatever you want to call them, they contact those rings on the tube that we were looking at. And as you can see here, all of these are in good shape. None of them are burnt up or arced or pitted. they're all good and smooth, and the tube fits into this socket just fine. Now, I have another transmitter that uses pretty much the same tube except a higher power model of it. It's a YC130, but it uses an identical socket. The tube is exactly the same size as well, but that transmitter will put out 35 kilowatts, where this one will only do 25. Oh, look in here. This is after my recent trip out there to do some work on the transmitter. I pulled the tube out, and I look down in there. You see where those fingers are missing there? That's where I broke them out because they had arced pretty bad. And once they start arcing, you can't hardly get them to stop. Now, if we look at the tube where it has been contacting, where I had broken out some of those teeth there, you'll see why you might want to do it. Look at that screen ring. It's a little black spot on it. If we zoom in and look at it a little bit closer, ouch. Thanks, everyone, for watching Ham Nation this year. It's really been a pleasure being with you every week. And we do hope that you'll join Ham Nation again in 2021. 7-3.
Merry Christmas from Valerie, NV9L. Now, I'm going to break the rules a little bit here. This is supposed to be the best of our favorite show from 2020, but in memory of the collapse of the Arecibo Observatory, I'm going to pick that tour I got to take from the Arecibo Observatory back in 2017 as my favorite best of for this holiday season. Merry Christmas. So Arecibo was made in a natural sinkhole called the karst sinkhole. And there it is being kind of cleared out. And you can see a couple of the towers in the background, a couple of guys up there installing the cabling system. And they're there getting ready to install the panels. And there's a shot of the control room back in the early 70s. And here it is today. Now, Arecibo has the Gregorian system that's suspended over the dish, and that's what moves to focus in on the object they want to look at. It's 1,000 feet wide and is a spherical dish versus a parabolic dish. That's made up of 38,000 3x6 foot panels, which would be about 1 million boxes of cereal, to give you some perspective. Now, the platform is 900 tons and between 5 and 550 feet above the center. And it's all suspended by a cable system into these 3 towers that are between 265 and 365 feet of reinforced concrete. And there's a look at some of the anchors holding in those cables. And that was just one of the anchor points scattered throughout the property. Now, we really lucked out because they had to postpone their experiment for the day till later that evening because they had to do some maintenance on the catwalk, which meant we got a ride in the cable car up to the platform and the full VIP tour. There's about 110 people that work at Arecibo. The scientists there study radio astronomy, atmospheric studies, and planetary radar astronomy.
Okay, the first thing we want to do is break the contact. So that thing won't move when we have this open. We have a double protection here. Pretty calm. Oh yeah.
Give me a wave.
Tú vas a la hora. ¿Te lo dejé abierto? Gracias, Elliot.
Thank you so much, Elliot.
This is great, Angel.
This is.
Thank you so much for doing this. And Elliot, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to make money.
Absolutely.
So right now we are how far above the very bottom center of the dish?
550 feet.
Did you ever have earthquakes here?
Yes, we did. Actually, it removed like 12 strands of, see these 4 cables?
Yeah.
The 4 cables coming up, going up there, 4 strands were broken off.
4 strands of one
12 strands. 12 strands. Yeah. So,
but it didn't take anything down.
That's 12 strands.
And when was the earthquake?
It was in January 2015.
Oh, it was recently.
Yeah. This was, and we had to shut down because nobody knew if that was gonna, that
Be
cable was
safe,
gonna snap,
right?
And it would fall or whatever. Oh, you know, they actually fought on that GoldenEye. They actually fought. This guy is actually stunt guy. Actually was rolling on
these stairs. He rolled down these stairs in GoldenEye.
So
we're going down these stairs.
Yeah, we're gonna go through the rotary joint. Okay, this is called a rotary joint.
Okay, the rotary joint. Here we go.
And let me see. There's one. Okay, the thing is that it's in a bad area because there's the steps that go down this way. But that's part of the experience here. So there's a rope here.
Can I step on this?
You can step on anything. And so I suggest you. Okay.
I'm tall.
Oh, you're tall. You can do
Look
that.
I can still hang on to the thing.
Okay. There's a little. See, there's little handles and ropes and. There's usually a little seat that stairs, but
you can hang on to that thing and stand all the way down.
Yeah, not a problem. And this is actually 430 megahertz waveguide. Oh, we're gonna move. We're gonna be moving. We're gonna move this.
Cool.
This is the rotary joint. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
We have to keep low.
We're gonna turn. Yeah. So they're greasing up the.
See, we're moving.
They inspect the track for any cracks and stuff like this. So they haven't done that in a while. So
and you have a helipad?
And we have a helipad, yeah. That was the last one. Yeah, just for emergency purposes there. And you can see you see the spider web on the way up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's the mesh.
That's what Ellie was telling me.
That's the mesh for the cross dipoles that Jim designed. Those cross dipoles you saw at the bottom. That's the HF facility. That's the atmospheric modification system we have. So the signals come up from the cross dipole. The signals come up from the cross dipole. They bounce off of this reflector. That spiderweb looking mesh. That's the reflector. So it bounces from the dipoles into that reflector, off the main 1,000-foot reflector, up into the ionosphere.
Wow.
And then we use the 430 megahertz long antenna.
Right.
And then with that ionosphere system, then we see what is the effect of ionosphere modification, because the ionosphere is more available during the day because of the sun. In the nighttime, there isn't that much.
Yeah,
so
quiet.
that's why we have this. And that's why this thing is getting closer to my head. So let's go down here a bit.
So what HF frequency are you guys
5 megahertz or 8 megahertz?
5 and 8, okay.
So we're going now to the actual, this is the azimuth arm. We're going to go down. There's the dome right underneath it. So that was Miguel, that was the supervisor over there. That moved it for us. That was nice of him to do that.
Yeah.
I would have jumped anywhere, I don't care, but. Okay, now we're gonna actually go inside the dome, okay?
Okay.
Just watch your step. I'm going first for obvious reasons. I would say ladies first, but I gotta go first. Sorry about that. Excuse my manners now.
We understand fully. Wow.
Wow.
Okay, I'll show you this room first.
Wait, I gotta do a look down.
This room has the Planetary radar transmitter. Okay, this is the 2380 transmitter is in here. That's a Klystron to the 2380 megahertz, 12 centimeters. This is the transmitter that we use to study asteroids, comets, planets. Remember, Arecibo is the most sensitive place with the most sensitive antenna in the world to study asteroids. Asteroids are like minor planets. They go around the sun, and so We don't discover the asteroids. NASA discovers them. Okay, they've got this big picture, and when there's a new spot, there you gotta see, well, there's a new object in the sky. Okay, and then they'll give us the coordinates, and then we'll do a 2 or 3 day study, and with our studies, we can see the size of it, what it's made out of, its rotation period, its orbital period, and most of all important, is it gonna hit the Earth? And this, we'll see, is the magic rotating floor. Did I tell you how this works?
The magic rotating floor?
Yeah, okay. See why this dome is here. Let me tell you why this, we'll go down there. I'm just gonna do more on it. Why this dome is here, because that long antenna, that 432 megahertz, and that long one, well, that one, that's a line feed. All the signals come into a line up on the feed. What happens, because of heat and the cold, the cables suspending the platform expand and contract. So what happens? The platform goes up and down. So we lose focus. So we lose focus, and so the SWR will change. So we get this SWR in the signal. So they thought about, let's say if we do a Gregorian system like they do in optical telescopes, it'll eliminate that aberration. So what happens now is we have the primary dish, the big 1,000-foot dish, then the signal then bounce off that secondary dish, off that tertiary dish, and then they all get focused into one point. And in that one point, we have, in the focal point, we'll put a different antenna, different feed system, depending on the frequency we want to use. Sure. So it's just like a microscope. I was telling Val, a microscope, your eye is the focal point, and you just change lenses. It's the same thing. So no matter how up and down we go, the signals always get focused into one spot. Nice. So they'll eliminate that aberration. And this is the rotating floor. And anyway, yeah, we're locked in position because to use the 430 megahertz system, we have a waveguide coming into here too, and so we'll do a dual beam. We'll do the beam from the 430, the long antenna, and a beam from here, so we can do vertical and to the sides as well. So when that is done, we have to lock the floor so we don't move it. Okay. Because the waveguide has to be fixed into that.
So what is all this hardware here?
These are all the receivers. These are all the different receivers. What you hear out there are the refrigerators. These receivers are cooled by helium, not liquid helium. Okay, it's to about 4 degrees Kelvin.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah. So these are great. I mean, we're talking about cold, liquid helium. So you can imagine. And underneath are the different feed horns. Because the types of antennas that we use are horns. Horns. They're not. We have some little cross dipole. You'll see little cross dipoles, and the frequencies we use are pretty high. So this is and you can see this whole floor rotates. The whole floor. This is the floor.
How fast does it go?
And when we do S-band, the planetary radar, we'll switch pretty fast. It'll go.
Oh.
Okay, and one thing I wanted to tell you, you said DX. That transmitter upstairs, that 2380 megahertz, the planetary radar transmitter, that transmitter puts out, well, you know about this. It puts out 1 megawatt CW. The 430 megahertz transmitter puts out 2.5 megawatt CW, but pulsed. 2.5 megawatt CW, 2.5 megawatts pulsed with a 6% duty cycle. So it's not that much coming out. But the other one is 1 megawatt CW with 70 dB gain, which will give you 20 times 10 to the 12 watts, 20 terawatts out.
Wow.
Now, there's the X.
There's the X.
Thank you. Watch your hand here, pal. You, Jerry.
When am I at the bottom?
One more? Okay.
Oh, this, okay.
Here we are. So this is the service platform. What we are seeing here, these are the feed horns from the receivers. These are different frequencies. You see there's a little cross dipole there. See that? And Jim actually designed some of these. It could have been that one he designed. and the focal point is right there. So again, why I said that this floor rotates, so that right now we have the 430 megahertz in focus, and we just this will rotate, and we just put any one of these horns in the focal point, depending on what we want to use. So again, that's the secondary, and this is the tertiary. This is the tertiary. And all these have all these little guys have these electronic shutters, you see, so we can protect it from when we're doing the transmitter, so we can protect them from RF. And that one has a huge shutter. This is an automatic one that we just installed, and we haven't done an RF leakage test on it. But for that, for those receivers inside that big circular tank there. And that's the one. By the way, that's the one that when we use the SETI, that's the one. That's the receivers we piggyback on.
Okay.
The alpha system there.
Yeah, that's the 430.
Watch your hand.
Yeah, I'm holding on.
Yeah.
Here's a shot of what it looks like underneath the dish. You can see it's not really on the ground, it's suspended, and there's actually vegetation down there. Now there's a look at the 6 HF antennas at the bottom of the dish, and here's a close-up look at just one of them. So it looks pretty small from the other one, but they're actually pretty large. And here's a shot of the coax going to the HF array. Now here's a look at the HF transmitters. There's 6 in total, and here's a look at one close-up. And to say high power is kind of an understatement. Now here's some shots from inside one of the walk-in power supplies. It's pretty amazing, and they had a bunch of these. Now the grounds around the Arecibo property, or part of the property, are great. They even have a pool for their employees. Here's a look at some of their guest accommodations. Now if that one on the right looks a little familiar, that's where Jodie Foster's character stayed when she was at Arecibo in the movie Contact. And you can drive around. There's only certain areas you can't drive to unless your vehicle is shielded. And I want to give a special thanks to Angel Vasquez, Whiskey Papa 3 Radio, for giving Jerry and I the most incredible VIP tour.
Hi, Randy, K7AGE. One of my favorite Ham Nation moments was Gordo and George talking about winding a coil in your fingers or whatever. So have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Yeah, so I've got a little Tar Heel too, and it is on one of those Diamond K400 mounts. And let me say, that is the only mount like that I've ever seen that could stand an antenna that heavy.
Right.
And you do need to tighten it up, though, periodically and check and make sure that, it doesn't have slack in it. Clamp back down on that Allen screw. So I do not have the coil on the bottom there. You're saying I need 15 turns wrapped around my middle finger to to ground? Is that what you're saying?
You did not just do that.
Wow.
Well, maybe an alternate singer.
Hey everyone, Don, AE5DW here with my pick for the best of Ham Nation 2020. Let's think about this for a minute. 2020, certainly not a year for bests. We had the global COVID-19 pandemic causing the cancellation and postponement of so many things, and amateur radio certainly in that number. We did see the advent, however, of the virtual Hamfest and virtual meeting via Zoom and other video conferencing platforms. Certainly a game changer and a way to get us all back together, if not together, but still together. Newsline's annual Young Ham of the Year presentation was a victim of the cancellation of the Huntsville Hamfest. Newsline's own Neil Rapp, WB9 VPG, and his lovely bride Julie had to postpone their wedding a couple of times. Well, thankfully, though, Providence smiled down upon us, and we were able to get both the YHOTY presentation and Neil and Julie's wedding done. And even more fortunate, they both happened at the same time and at the same place. So let's revisit that. That's my pick of the best of 2020. This is from Ham Nation, episode 462, on July 15, 2020. The final story in our weekly amateur radio newsline headline segment. It was a wonderful day for everyone involved. So for Chris, KD8YVJ, congratulations on being named the 2020 Amateur Radio Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Memorial Young Ham of the Year. And for Neil and Julie, congratulations on finally being able to tie that knot, and all the best for a wonderful life together for the both of you. 7-3, everyone. This week, we at Amateur Radio Newsline are celebrating a marriage. Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, and Julie Swigert exchanged vows on Saturday, July 11th in the Cincinnati suburb of Westchester, Ohio, and we could not be happier for the newlyweds. It was a long road to the front of the church for Neil and Julie as the COVID pandemic caused many delays and cancellations along the way. However, love always wins, and I'm honored to present to you Mr. and Mrs. Neil Rapp. Just before the ceremony, I had the honor of presenting the 2020 Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Newsline Young Ham of the Year Award to Christopher Bro, KD8YVJ. It wasn't at the Huntsville Hamfest, but at least I got to present it in person and to a great friend and deserving young radio amateur. It was a surprise to his parents, Jocelyn, KD8VRX, and Kim, as Chris decided not to tell them until I handed him the plaque. Double congratulations to Neil and Julie and to Chris Bro, KD8YVJ, our 2020 Amateur Radio Newsline Young Ham of the Year.
Hey, Ham Nation fans, it's Amanda, K1DDN, and I'd like to say happy holidays. You're about to watch a segment from one of my favorite shows of the year, all about the YLs, and we had some great guests on there, I'll tell you. We had some wonderful discussion about STEM, STEAM, getting women involved in technology and ham radio, and I really think you're going to enjoy this roundabout discussion. And I hope that you give us your input and tell us about some other YLs that should be involved in Ham Nation and in ham radio in general. We're looking forward to this. Stay tuned. I think you're going to enjoy this.
But now it's time for Smoke and Solder, and it's not with George. It's with Jerry and Amy. So welcome aboard, Jerry and Amy.
Hi, guys. Hey, we were just drooling over that 705. Holy cow.
Yeah. Isn't that great? I love the backpack idea. This is great. Hey, I heard you guys went to Quartz Fest. Are you going to be talking about that tonight?
Sure, yeah. We'd love to tell you about our shenanigans.
Shenanigans is accurate.
Yeah, I want to hear what the fire starter was this week.
Oh, talk about starting the fires, Amy.
Oh, yeah. So last year we had this crazy 1-watt laser of Jerry's that we pulled out, and we tried to start the fire with it, and we weren't very successful. But we decided that this year we would try to start the campfire, in a different way every single night. So first night we used potassium permanganate and vegetable glycerin, which is actually quite fun to do. But if you do it, be careful, kids. Don't hurt yourself. Second night we did an actual flint stone and actual iron, like a piece of metal. And then I think the next night we did, I'm trying to remember, I think we did the 9-volt battery and steel wool. But the 9-volt battery wasn't good enough for the steel wool we had, so Jerry pulled out the LifePo 4 battery and
I did it real quick.
Got it going really fast. What other ways do we do it? Oh, the finale night was the 1-watt lasers. So the other guys in the camp that we were staying at ended up getting 1-watt lasers as well. And we had, I think, 3 of them or 4 of them going at the same time, and ended up starting the guys that we camped with there. So we ended up getting the fire going with 1-watt lasers. Another, don't try this at home, kids. But it was fun.
To add a little correction to it, they were showing pictures of the main camp ring. It was actually, we were starting the fire at Randy K7AGE's campsite every night. It was super fun. But it was amazing week out there.
Did you guys do any presenting there, or did you guys go to a lot of the seminars, or what was all involved with going to Quartzsite Fest?
So this year, I think this year was the year of YouTubers. There's Jerry. So a bunch of YouTubers were there, including Jerry, Kevin Laughlin, KB9RLW, Bob, K6UDA, Randy, of course, K7AGE, and Dave Kessler, KE0OG. And they gave a talk while we were there, which was pretty fun.
It was super fun. We spent a lot of time talking about what is behind doing a YouTube channel. And so I found it kind of interesting to see the other ham radio YouTubers talking about their trials and tribulations of dealing with the internet.
Very good. I'm going to bring Amanda in now because I'm sure she has a lot more questions for you. Amanda, are you available?
I am. Actually, I have. So I really want to, for any of us that don't know, what is the definition of a YouTuber and how do you make it or break it?
Make it or break it. I don't know. I got started in YouTube a very long time ago before YouTube was much of a thing. I was working at a company that did video encoding. They did the TriCaster, which is likely doing the live stream today. And I just wanted to learn about video streaming and this thing called YouTube. So, since I'm into electronics, I just got a bunch of people together, my friends, and we did live streaming and recording YouTube videos just around science and technology. And it kind of took off. And eventually, for me, I really felt that this was a great way for me to give back to like all the mentors that helped me over the years. So I've continued to do it for quite some time. And recently, when I got licensed as a ham radio operator, I started doing ham radio related activities on YouTube. For the other folks that were on the panel, they had various other reasons. Bob, K6UDA, for example, he just had aspirations of being kind of an amateur filmmaker. And so taking his passion for film and applying radio to it gave him like an outlet to practice. If I remember right, Dave Kassler had been making videos of his motorcycle, and then he just decided to throw up a couple videos, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control.
Wow. And Randy really has a great YouTube channel, by the way, K7AGE, if none of you guys know who he is. And Val does a lot of YouTube videos. We really appreciate them. She has a lot of instructional on how to get involved in anything from LOTW. Val, don't you? I mean, you do a lot of that, actually.
Yeah, well, it's usually whatever I throw on the show, I put on my YouTube channel, too, just in case you just want to see that segment. But I wouldn't really be what you call a YouTuber. I finally passed that 1,000 mark, although I'm not going to monetize. I hate watching commercials, so I don't want anybody out there wanting to learn ham radio to have to sit through them too. But how many subscribers would you say you have, Jerry? And if someone were to go to your channel, what kind of things would they see besides ham radio?
I really don't know how many subscribers I have, 250,000 or something like that.
No, I think it's, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Maybe it's 10. I don't know.
That's a lot.
I don't, for some folks, it's all about the numbers. For me, it's an outlet and ability for me to mentor. So I don't really follow all the stats that closely, and I really don't care whether people like me or not on there. It's kind of funny. Some of my videos that get the most hate are things like I hiked out to a lava flow in Hawaii with a metal shovel and just started shoveling lava and manipulating it, and people.
And I got hate.
Yeah. I don't know why, and it's I just go on there occasionally and go, LOL.
That's really bizarre. You guys that watch YouTube are really bizarre. I'm kidding. I
think it's funny because I do on my channel, I do everything from art to electronics, and you just can't please everyone. So I'll do some kind of art project and put up there, and people will be like, I hate you so much, I'm unsubscribing. And then all the people that are into the art stuff are like, you're the best ever.
That is so bizarre. Okay. Let's see. We do have some other questions. So the last time you actually were on Ham Nation, you two were talking about Tilt 5, your startup project, and I think you've actually progressed quite a bit since you've been on the show. How's it going?
That's going really good. So we just did an announcement today that we're heads deep in manufacturing, and which is super exciting. And Amy, do you have I mean,
it's just, we've been insanely busy. A couple new staff members on board in December, and we're actually this week right in the midst of moving to a new office because our other space was so cramped with 5 of us in there. But we needed to get a larger space finally.
Yeah, it's kind of fun too. With the coronavirus becoming an issue, now we're kind of looking around like, well, how are we going to get all the parts to do this next build? So that's kind of interesting and fun. Luckily, before all that hit, we had a large shipment of bits and pieces for us to progress. So far, it's not looking too bad. But it's always interesting in a startup, trying to navigate all the unexpected stuff.
Now, that's interesting that you bring that up. So that's one aspect of the coronavirus I would have never expected, is that it's hindering shipping and
for instance,
completely.
We paid lots and lots of money to have 3,000 subassemblies built a bit over a month ago, and they were scheduled to build right after the Chinese New Year, which was this last Monday. And so we've been in constant communication with them, like, so what's going on? They're like, well, we're forced to do an extended vacation. We don't know when it's going to end. So again, luckily we had gotten some trial runs in before like the big build was going to happen, so we can keep progressing.
Now, I have this random thing, and this comes from you, Jerry. This is your fault because I follow you on Twitter. You had mentioned something about rockets, and you brought back my childhood memory as well from Estes rockets. And you said, this is great. And then I used to launch all these Estes rockets. I just wanted to let you know, it's funny. I do printing for Estes rockets, and they're about 10 minutes away from me. And I used to get a lot of their early models because my dad did their printing before I started in the business with him. And I enjoyed them so much. And again, it's something that you think is kind of a boy thing, where the Rocket Club is all guys. And it was just really neat to see you tweeting about it, because it brought back a lot of childhood memories. And thank you so much. And having all the different paints to paint them. And you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I think you're the best ever that you did Estes rockets. I've always been interested in space. So, when I was a kid, of course, you build model rockets, and I actually burned 2 acres of grass in our cow pasture launching rockets, which is a whole long story. Got in trouble for that. Got kicked out of my rocketry club for building too high power of rockets, and whatever, And a few years ago, before I started the AR startup, I was approached to work on a navigation system for a rocket, and a low Earth orbit rocket. And so I was like, wow, like dream come true. And so I jumped in and built these flight computers for this rocket. And just this week, they came out of stealth mode as far as the company, and they started talking about it. So now I can talk about it. And that's why I was on Twitter saying, like, oh my God, I can finally talk about this rocket, which they've launched a few times, that had my flight computers in it. And this is so amazing. And thanks to ham radio, I was able to do all of the radios and telemetry for it as well. So, and when things went horribly wrong the first time we turned on the radios, I quickly looked at the spectrum analyzer. I'm like, oh, I know what's going on. We just have, mixing products. Like, we can fix this.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes. The rockets in general, it was always a fun time. It didn't start anything on fire, though. Thank goodness, here in Colorado. That could be very, very dangerous. But
when they're launching the big rocket, they launched it out of, I think this is public, out of Alaska. And I got to watch a live stream. So I was super nervous, because like this thing would go off like a megaton bomb if something went wrong, and it could be my fault, right? If the navigation system didn't work right. So super nerve-wracking watching these rockets launch, especially, this little startup that I was at was super small. It was, I don't know, I think it was less than 50 people in the entire company building these low Earth orbit rockets. And so, there was a lot of trust put into my hands to build these computers and design them correctly. So, knock on wood, a couple flights in so far, no problems.
Yeah, you're doing better than SpaceX. That's like, should I have not have said that? Okay. I did want to just say one other thing, and I don't think that Jerry is ever going to brag about herself, so I have to brag for her. Don't mind me, Jerry. There was this wonderful New York Times article, and I hope everyone just Googles Jerry Ellsworth and New York Times and sees this article, because it was really spectacular to talk about where you came from, your education, and basically the way you got bored with the education you were given. And you just kept moving on and moving on and moving on. And I would say that you're a huge inspiration to not only women, but everybody when they can't get what they're looking for. Victor, I can't believe you found that. It's really a superb article, and I hope everybody takes the time to read it.
Thank you so much. This is actually, the second New York Times article. It was... I am going to brag, I guess. But,
you should, sister. You should.
The first New York Times article was in 2004, I believe. It was kind of the first thing that I did that was kind of like public and big. I designed a toy, and this reporter discovered me, and he's like, wow, this is such an interesting story. A high school dropout, race car driver turned toy designer, ships 1 million units. And that was really interesting. It was like before social media. It was before, a lot of this stuff. And just a lot of strange things happened. Like people so desperate to talk to me that they found my father, and they called my father up and kind of freaked my dad out. But luckily, the second New York Times article was, people could find me a lot easier.
Sure, yeah,
there it is.
There it
Toy
is.
with a Story. Yeah, that was a super magical project that I worked on.
I loved reading this story, and I love the way that they put it together. Love the pictures. Everything about it was really inspiring. And I'm not saying that most people shouldn't go to college, finish it, get your degree, but Jerry has a very unique story, and we really appreciate it. And with
stay
your
in
unique,
kids, or stay in school, kids.
Yeah, stay in school.
the two of you are so great, and you're so dynamic. I just and I don't know if you have different answers for this or kind of a joint answer, but I'm sure you get the chance to talk to a lot of youth about STEAM and if they're looking at it, what they look to get into it. What do you do to encourage them?
Dr. T kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. I was actually, I really, really, really liked her answer. I've had the same thing happen in my past where I've been discouraged a number of times, and I think she hit it on the head when she said you really have to have that passion for the thing that you're working on, because that's the thing that's going to pull you through all of those other things. So all of the people that try to dissuade you or push you out of that career path, if you're very, very passionate about it, you're going to keep working towards it, and you're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. It's all, in my career, it's been about the passion. And so, maybe to add on to that is like your passions change over time.
Yep.
So, and they can be very fleeting. Like my chance to work on a rocket, that was amazing. I put 5 months really hard work into it, and I'll never do it again because I never want to go through that again. But it was my passion pushed me through this like tight schedule to get it done. And I think probably one of the things that maybe creeps me out the most about our education system is that there's this push for kids to figure out what they're going to do for their entire life when they're 15 years old, and I think that's completely wrong. I've been a race car driver. I've owned retail computer stores. I'm an electrical engineer. I'm a CEO now, so it changes.
I do hope that you have enjoyed all of the shows this year on Ham Nation. We certainly have fun, and we enjoyed very much making it happen for you and for all here on the TWiT network. But until we meet again, why, enjoy life, stay safe, and for gosh sakes, keep your ham radios hot and keep those tubes glowing, and Get the signals in the air. It's the only way we're going to salvage our life through 2020. So we'll see you again right here in 2021 on Ham Nation. Thank you.